What is the one piece of advice that stands above all others when it comes to becoming an elite financial, a master of one's finances that you would give to women? If you like Susie Orman, you're going to love my conversation I had with wealth and financial expert Shari Rash. Shari specializes in finances and wealth building for women, and we go into a conversation about specifically how women can avoid costly mistakes that can cost them thousands, if not millions of dollars, depending on who the woman is. So enjoy the conversation with Shari, and at the end, stay tuned for the one mistake that women make that could cost them everything. Enjoy the conversation. Today with Shari Rash. I it was everything I could not to say Rush, and I still said it anyways.
Happens all the time.
She's the founder of GWA Wealth, a virtual financial advisory firm that helps women specifically address the issues, financial challenges and questions in a no-nonsense way. I can't wait for the no-nonsense part. I'm looking forward to that. And I have big questions about what you do today. And in our conversation, our goal is going to be to help to uncover, financial literacy and what specifically women are being affected by. So welcome to the Common Sense Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm also excited for our conversation, and my no nonsense. It sounds a little intimidating, but it's just we're having fun. We're all having fun talking about money.
I love it. Awesome. So, what does a best wealth manager and advisor under 40 do? Like, what does that mean?
Well, essentially it means, I guess, that I'm setting myself apart. I'm doing different things. I'd like to think of myself as pretty forward thinking when it comes to the way I work with my clients and the services that I'm offering. And sometimes when you're a business owner and you work by yourself, you really feel like you're on an island. So being recognized by others in the industry for the things that I'm doing with my clients was quite an honor. So I'm just working with my clients, spreading the word, enhancing financial literacy, and just putting it out there and trying to make money not so taboo to talk about, especially for women.
And so, okay, so your focus is primarily working with women. And what is it that you saw that inspired you? I mean, other than being a woman yourself, of course, like, what is it why women? Why do they specifically need this, what you offer, this financial advice? What is it that you've noticed that is causing this gap in financial challenges for women?
So there's so many things. One, there's so few female financial advisors in the industry. There's about 16% of financial advisors are female, and men and women speak a different language when it comes to money. If we think back, that men are from Mars, women are from Venus book. It's true. It's true with everything, but it's even true when it comes to money, that men and women think about money differently. They speak about money differently. And when you're getting your advice pretty much from men, there's just way more men than women in the industry and giving advice, it does seem like the advice isn't resonating. What they're saying isn't resonating, because if a man's speaking to women about money, they're speaking a different language. So that's a big issue for women. And that's why I decided to work with women and focus on women, because I am one. I know what it feels like to be the only woman in a room at conferences and all of that. So I know what it's like. I know it's intimidating. And women are also feel taught and feel like talking about money is taboo, or I shouldn't be handling it. That's my husband's job, or that's my dad helps me with my money. So that's why I said, you know what, let me work. And women are 50% of the population. So let me help the 50% of the population that isn't getting the attention that they need.
Yeah, it's funny. Men from Mars, women from, I think that's John Gray. I think that's the author of that book. But it's funny that you mentioned that, because I forget what I was doing in a business transaction, but I was my mother just happened to overhear my conversation, and it was with a woman that I was speaking to, and she always says, Micah, women speak differently, or they perceive things differently. So maybe like what you're saying is not. I was like, okay, well then how do I correct it? Because I don't, I'm not exactly sure how to edit myself for the female population, but I thought it was pretty funny. But I mean, you're absolutely right. I have found that, and I actually made a career in the health and wellness field, and almost all of my clients, customers over the years were female. And you're right. I had to learn a different way to kind of get things across. I work with professional athletes. That I'm a big supporter of female athletics. Having worked with professional athletes, and I've had to learn. I've been fortunate enough though to deal with women that were like communicated back to me, like, okay, let me just put these Legos here so that you can figure this out. And then I'm just like, all right, I got you. Yeah. We're in lockstep. So that communication piece actually makes a lot of sense. What kind of financial challenges are women facing that either might be different from a man, or just specifically that they need to pay attention to in 2025 and in general?
Well, it really depends on what phase of life you're in, right? So a young millennial is having different challenges than an elder millennial, right? We're at different spots in our life. Gen Xers.
I feel attacked just a little bit. I gotta be honest with you. I'm a geriatric millennial.
I'm close to a geriatric millennial, I believe, but I do wear the millennial tag proudly. But so it really depends on, but I think what it comes down to, a common element, a common theme a lot of women have, no matter what phase in life we're in or whatever our needs are, is that we don't have the confidence in our financial decisions, or we don't even know where to start. We have nowhere to turn to. We rely on someone else to help us, or we don't make any decision. It's overwhelming. That's the common theme that's woven through a lot of the conversations that I have with my clients, is like, I don't know what to do. I've never dealt with this before. I've just stuck my head in the sand. And that's it. That's the big, because women typically live longer than their male counterparts, or more women aren't getting married. So they're solely responsible for their finances. So you can't stick your head in the sand. So I believe it's 94% of women at some point in their life are going to be the sole financial decision makers. And if you don't have confidence in that, that's a terrible feeling.
Yeah. No, that's actually an excellent point about confidence, and the fact that men definitely don't live longer. All you got to do is watch any social media video with guys doing stupid stuff, and it's instantly evident why our lifespans are so short. But also maybe married men are more willing to die, but that's a whole other conversation. So that's, is it also like, and I wonder what percentage of your practice, or just what you observe, is women, for instance, that they're in this marriage, maybe they got divorced. Obviously they weren't planning to get divorced. But like they're in this position now where they have to actually solely take care of, their family. And like you said, that's interesting. I want to kind of drill down on that a bit, that their husband did everything, took care of everything, and they took care of nothing. It's a great life if you can get it. But like when you're stuck with on the other side of that, what does it look like?
Well, what usually happens in most marriages, husband and wife, is that the wife will take care of the day-to-day finances. Right. So the day-to-day spending, the little stuff that needs to get done, but the husband takes care of the big stuff. So it's a weird dynamic in that the wife feels like she's involved, but she knows that she isn't, but she still feels like she's involved because she is making the purchasing decisions and all of that. But when it comes to the big stuff, the husband's taking care of that and she's not involved in it at all. Right. So then when the event comes that she's now the sole decision maker, whether by divorce or death, it's an odd feeling, because it's like, I feel like I know what's going on with my house, I felt like I did, But now I really realize I don't, because
Mhm.
it's big decisions need to be made, investments, insurance, all of the estate planning, all of that stuff that my husband just handled it all. I hear so often like, oh, my husband takes care of it. He has a spreadsheet. And it's like, okay, do you have the password to his computer? Do you understand, where is the spreadsheet located? What is the title of it? Because if he's not here one day, you then need to understand that spreadsheet.
Right.
So it's important to, and I think that the disconnect is a little bit of, you don't necessarily need to know every single bit and piece of the investment and what you have. You need to know
Right.
where it is, who's managing it, who's the contact. Those are the big things.
Yeah, and that definitely makes sense. It's just being informed about kind of the state of the finances of the family, and there's a big difference between being a daily money manager, and it's a different skill set too, if we're going to be honest, right?
Yes.
Like being
Yes.
a daily money manager to being like an invest like the husband does the investing and for retirement or for the family and stuff like that, and that's you kind of just described the relationship with my wife and I, which is basically like because I suck at daily money management, not because and
Mhm.
I don't want to do it, frankly. And she actually enjoys that part, and it's actually a really important part too,
Yeah.
because you can still go broke with the daily money management side if you're not careful. Um, what questions should women be asking to get the information that will not leave them, stranded, or just completely ignorant?
I think, well, one, if they do have a financial advisor, to join those meetings and be an active participant in those meetings.
Mhm.
And again, that can be difficult because it could be so outside of your comfort zone. And it does sound like they may be speaking their own language and you're kind of listening in, but making it clear that I want to be part of these meetings. I want to understand what's going on. I want to understand what our net worth is, where it comes from, and all of those things. So that's the first thing. The second is having a conversation with your husband or partner of, where is the money? It is our money. It may be in
Mhm.
your name, it may be your employer's 401k, but it is technically our money. So where is it? And understanding that, doing some type of money date and going through everything you have together as a household. Where are things located? um, are the beneficiaries correct? I see it happen all the time where beneficiaries are out of date, and parents may still be listed as the beneficiary instead of the spouse, which that creates a very interesting a situation if, God forbid, the owner of that account passes away.
Mhm.
So sitting down and just taking an inventory of everything, conversations, is super helpful. And it's not, where is this money going? It's not attacking. It's just, I want to gain an understanding, because that will empower me. That helps me to understand and feel confident in our household finances.
So ironically, it seems like what you're saying is that it comes down to everything outside of the actual finances, which is the communication
Mhm.
and kind of building a bridge to understanding like what's all involved and with the finances. It's just like any other aspect of life that you talk about, like the kids or careers or moving, whatever the case is.
Yeah, because all of this stuff is intangible. We
Mhm.
can't pick it up. We can't hold it. We don't get statements in the mail anymore. At least when you got a statement in the mail, you're like, oh, there's my money. Okay, great.
Mhm.
Now it's all sent to your email. So it's not tangible. So, and the issue with money is that it's neutral, it's
Right.
nothing, but we put our own feelings on it. So as long as everyone goes into these conversations of, this is just a neutral conversation, we're just talking about things, it's fine. But we as humans put our own emotions onto money, and everyone has a money personality. When I talk with my clients, I help to
Right.
identify their money personality. I don't necessarily tell them what they are. I can figure it out, and then that helps to shape the way I speak to them about money. But
Mhm.
your money personality is super important to understand. And it's very likely your spouse does not have the same money personality as you, which then creates an interesting dynamic. But what emotions do we then put onto our money? Because it's all about communication, and it is feelings, because we feel a certain way about money. So yeah, it's so much less about the nuts and bolts of it, of how it's invested and all of that. It's where it is, how does it make us feel, what makes us feel better about our money, what steps do we need to take there, to create that empowerment.
You're brilliant. That was actually well stated. Here's the thing. Here's the reason why I say that, because um, what it starts with, like, dating. Like, I'm noticing, and so I have a guilty pleasure. I've never said this publicly. I'm going to say it now. What my guilty pleasure is I tend to watch not just any reality TV, because I don't have the patience for that, because most people there are detestable. I watch probably the most detestable reality TV, which is like, like the Real Housewives, and like some of like the it's always the ones sitting around these wealthy women that are married to these guys, and I don't know why.
You couldn't be saying that to a better person. That is all I watch. I don't watch anything besides Real Housewives.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking, like, first of all, who are these women? Oh my God. And then who are these guys married to the women? It's like, spare me. But anyways, in another note, I'm thinking, like, but it enters the conversation. I remember reading an article that talks about why you should ask your date what their credit score is, like, early on in the relationship. I'm thinking, like, are you serious? Like, but like this, it just enters the conversation so early. Even the thought, like, who's paying for the meal and all this other stuff, that is actually finances. And you talk about personality or relationship, that we put things on personality. I think that people way overthink who pays for the meal. And maybe that's just from my old married over 20 years self, but it's just like, whoever gets it first is the answer, in my opinion. But like, we put this weird thing. You talk about taboos, right? About money. Like, why do we do that? What kind of message are we sending? To me, the whole conversation is a turn off, because you're right. Money amplifies who you are as a person. Whether you get more of it, whether you have less of it, like, you are who you are, and we're all working on ourselves. But like, when you get more money, you're only going to be a better version of who you actually are right now. Or a worse version of who you are right now. It's just going to show everybody who you really are. But like, I have a million questions to ask you. Let's start with I'm so excited. So let's start with the first one, which is, why do we like start from the beginning, like dating? This tension? I want to go back in the other stuff we talk about, like this tension about like who's paying. What is that? Help me understand.
So why are we even worried about who's paying for the
Yeah,
meal?
like, what is that?
Everything comes back to like what society has put on us, at a young age. It's, society tells us who should pick up the check, or going to Dutch is a good or a bad thing, right? Or it's how we grew up. And I think money is the same way. We have these feelings about money based on how we were raised. And if you think about, if I ask you, what is your first money memory, that pretty much will tell you, or tell me, if you have a positive or negative relationship with money. And if it's like, well, I just remember my parents arguing about it, well, then you likely are going to have a negative relationship with money and think it's a bad thing. Or if it's more of a positive of, I remember when the tooth fairy came and brought me money, it's like, okay, well, then do you think that money then appears out of thin air, or you have to earn it in certain ways in order to get it? So that usually, and it may not be necessarily the first memory, but it's what comes to you first. And that usually tells you very quickly what your relationship with money is. And then that affects everything. I mean, it's just how you feel about it, negative, positive, and we literally deal with money all day, every day, right? Multiple times a day, we're dealing with money. So it's, are you coming from a negative place or a positive place? It doesn't matter what it is, from down to who pays the bill, negative or positive.
Yeah, my mother always says so I have two other brothers. She's like, I raised chauvinists. That's what she always says that, right? But like, I think about it in terms of like, just maybe as a dude, I'm not sure, but like, if I was ever like, I haven't dated in a long time, over 20 years. So but like I just pay it. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's not even a thought like you're a woman, I'm paying it. I'm like, I just do it. It's just like it needs
Mhm.
to be done. Let's
Mhm.
get it done and let's get the heck out of here. Right. Like that
Yeah.
that was always my thought. It had nothing to do with, but like I feel like, and I'm not sure, and maybe because I'm a geriatric, moody millennial at this point, who's slightly nihilistic. Um, is it? I wonder if it's just my thoughts that people are just tend to overemphasize every and overanalyze every interaction. Like the way the world has gone, certainly in the United States, like with specialization and everything, it's just kind of highlighted all the little micro nuances of life that we never really fully paid attention to. And now, like, here we are, like, now we are in this place where like everything is brought to light. Like, every little, did you see the way they look? And then, like, you can scan in with your fingers and like all this, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like money is the same thing. Is that like the reason why our relationship now has changed with money is because we place, as you mentioned, like your earliest money memory, we literally put our worldview onto every aspect of controlling our finances or how we interact with other people. Um, and people who tend to, in my opinion, be better with money tend to actually not even think about it as much as people who think about it all the time. It's weird.
Or I mean, even social media doesn't help with this, which I think, which you're also alluding to in the fact of, well, they have this, they have that. It's showing off all these videos and these influencers and all of this stuff, and you think, it then puts what someone has on display and automatically makes you feel inferior, right? But
Mm-hmm.
again, that's your own thing working through. They may not necessarily be bragging about all the stuff or whatever it is they're doing, but you're putting your own money feelings on it. Like, oh, they must have so much money and they're showing you this or that, where we don't know the truth. We don't know the
Mm-hmm.
truth, and we'll never break open their bank account and see and get the real story. But is such a focus on all of that stuff and how much of it is um stuff, buying stuff, getting stuff, showing off stuff, and is your the car you drive society then determines how much money you have or what have you, or conversely how much money you don't have based off of the car you drive, or all this stuff. So it's always such I feel like even now more, it's so much more of a rat race about money than maybe our parents' generation, because they didn't have that in their face all the time.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. What So how do you uncover your money personality? Is it like one of these things where you need money therapy? Or do we need to come talk to um uh you know Dr. Rash, the therapist, the money therapist, about this? Like how do you understand you're like, okay, I'm way too cheap, or I spend too much, or I feel like I'm always feeling like I'm gonna lose my money, so I don't do anything about it. Like, how
Mhm.
do you uncover this?
I uncover that, or me as I'm working with my clients, or just someone in general. How do they determine
Yeah, how
this?
do you uncover with your clients?
Yeah. So I figure it out just through questions. And yes, I with therapy, most of my appointments end up being financial therapy. So we're not just going through the numbers and the nuts and bolts of things. There's crying, there's laughing, there's, oh my God, I can't
Mhm.
believe I'm telling you this. But I mean,
Right.
there's so much of that because we put our emotions on it. But it's
Mhm.
okay. But my job is to look at it without emotion. You can have all the emotions you want. I'm going to give you advice without emotion. I'm looking
Mhm.
at the numbers, I'm looking at the figures, I'm looking at what makes sense. But
Right.
I did help to determine my client's money personality through asking questions. I look at When I start working with my clients, we start with their bank accounts.
Mhm.
And I say, show me all of your bank accounts.
Mm.
And there may be, if there's a lot of bank accounts, well, but what's your strategy? Well, I do this and I move that here, and this bill comes out of this account, and then I move money here and I get paid here. And it's like, okay, that tells me a lot. And then, or how much money, and another question I ask is, how much money do you want in your checking account? Like
Mhm.
when you open up the app on your phone, your stomach hurts when you see a number. What is that number? Like you get that pit in your stomach. What is that number? And everyone's number is different. Some of my clients are really comfortable with bringing their checking account down to nothing right before payday, and then it goes back up because they say, if it's there, I'm going to spend it.
Right.
Okay. Well, now we got a little bit of a, a spending type of personality there. So we need more out of sight, out of mind strategies. We need money to move immediately. So that tells me what strategies to implement. Other clients want a lot of money in their checking account, which, mathematically maybe too much money in their checking account. Okay. Are they a little bit of a miser? Do they feel bad for spending money? Are they a money hoarder? Will no number be big enough for them? So, okay, how do we, I recognize the hoarding. How can we do it without it actually hurting you? Because there is a risk of having too much cash in a bank account. So just by looking at how someone manages their bank accounts alone tells me a lot about how they think about money and how they feel about it and what their personality is.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And what about a person who, so let's talk about that actually. What about a person who actually feels like or spends just has a bad time with like budgeting, like their daily money management? Like if there's a woman sitting in front of you who's just like, I don't budget, I'm spending everything I got. Does it end up being something like I'm buying all the stuff that I never had when I was a kid kind of thing?
It could be, but you said the B word, you said budget. I don't use the B word. It's bad word.
6-letter word.
Budgeting, when someone says I try to create a budget and I failed, I'm not that surprised because it doesn't work for about 70% of the population. So if you're one of the 30%, if you're part of the 30% that it does work for, then that's already telling me something like, yes, I have my budget and I follow it. And then I'm like, let me see your budget. I'm curious. But so that right away tells me something. So if you're part of the 70% that budgeting doesn't work for, cool. Don't feel bad about it. You're in the majority, right? Because budgeting, do you remember or did you ever use mint.com? It doesn't exist anymore, which I was kind of excited when it did. Mint.com, I used it right when I graduated college, got my first job. I'm managing my money and I'm like, this sucks. Like this app stinks. It makes me feel bad every single day. But I still tried to keep on using it because what it would do is it would make you create a budget, but it would have you be, very clear on the category. So gas, car payment, all of this stuff. And then eating out, groceries. As soon as you set that budget, one, in general, it's inevitable that something happens that you're going to blow it for that month. Right. If you say, all right, here's my budget for eating out, then of course, the next week you get invited to go out to eat with friends and you have a great time and you blew your budget for the month. And then what happens? You feel bad about yourself. I'm a failure. I can't manage my budget. Well, what mint.com would do was then take away. So let's say your budget was $100 and we spent $130 on dinner or that month. It would then take away $30 the next month from you. So then you were starting with $70. And then and as a 23-year-old, it was like, I'm constantly feeling like I'm overspending and I feel bad. And it's like, no, I'm just being a 23-year-old. I'm going out and I'm having fun. So that made me hate budgets and go, this makes no sense. And all it does is make me feel bad about myself. So instead, create a strategy around spending money. We have to spend money. Budgets are restrictive. Budgets make you feel bad for spending money. I have 4 kids. Something comes up every single day that I didn't account for every day. So how can I have a budget if like for stuff that my 95% of my budget would be stuff the kids are asking me for that I wasn't planning on, right? So instead, come up with a strategy around your money. And one mistake people have is they don't have a plan for every dollar. You should have a plan for every dollar that comes into your household. Saving, spending, paying off debt, whatever it is, you need to have a plan for it. So So if you look at your income and the money that you have coming in, you then give it different categories. And categories I use with my clients are needs, wants, and wishes.
Mm-hmm.
Needs are obviously needs, but what traditional budgeting taught us was that we only need the necessities, electricity, rent, mortgage, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? I also need Netflix in my house. I also need to get my hair done every 6 weeks. If I don't, I'm very cranky because I do not like my hair.
Right.
So those are needs that
Yep.
I cannot live without that. My kids cannot live without Netflix. My household would be a disaster. So
Right.
those are needs, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And just, it is what it is. Don't feel bad about it, right? Remove all that bad stuff that we attach to our spending.
Mm-hmm.
And then it is a need. Then another part of the spending is wants. So it's stuff we don't need. It just makes life better. It's quality of life,
Mm-hmm.
right? So again, using my Netflix example, Netflix is a need, Hulu's a want. We can go without Hulu. We just recently got Max because my daughter and I were watching Young Sheldon and season 7 was on Max. We just got Max.
Good choice.
We're going to cancel. Yeah. we're going to cancel it, but that's a want, right? We don't need it. We need Netflix. We don't need HBO Max.
Right.
So that's a want. So if push came to shove, we can get rid of it. And then wishes is stuff that increases our net worth, saving, paying down debt. Those are the two ways we increase our net worth.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have your money split up amongst those three things, and about 50% of your income should go to needs, 30 take home income, 30% should go to wants, 20% goes to wishes. You are saving a very healthy amount of money, or increasing your net worth by paying down debt or saving a very healthy amount. You still have a good quality of life because 30% of your take home income is going to extras, and then half of it's going to the stuff you need. And then that way, when stuff comes up for the kids, or, those random expenses or that invite out to dinner, it fits into one of those categories and you're not blowing your budget.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that a lot. Strategy versus the B word. And it actually aligns quite well with diets. Diets don't work. I've written extensively about this when I was in the health and wellness field. And the reason what they found with diets is this: people who label foods good or bad tend to not complete diets. They tend to overconsume what they believe are good foods, which are also calorically dense, almost always, except celery and broccoli. And they tend to underconsume foods that they consider bad. However, a lot of them still struggle losing weight because they were still replacing the calories and had the higher calorie count as if they were eating a bunch of, crap. Now, they obviously they were eating a lot healthier food, but they were still over consuming because of this good or bad, binary. And it seems like it's kind of very similar with finances, that people who label, for instance, you said that in your household, Netflix is a need. And I agree, because they've increased their price 4 times and I'm still paying it. So that's how but you're right. For other people, it's certainly not that. So for us, cable TV is not a thing. I don't really watch TV at all, ever. I watch specific shows when I have the time to actually watch something. But for another person, their ability to watch television on a regular basis, watch the nightly news, which I would the nightly news doesn't interest me. I know what it's on there. It's going to be some kind of, I got to watch what I'm saying because this is YouTube, but it's going to be something. Someone is no longer with us. Someone got assaulted somehow, and then everything else in between. Right. So I can pretty much predict the news, and then the weather, I can just get that on an app. But, I think you're right, is that getting rid of, not putting ourselves into this kind of lockdown, okay, you have to spend your money here, you have to spend your money there, and then having a little bit more of a, like a landscape view, a portrait view of like kind of what our finances are, being able to give yourself permission to enjoy some things that make sense for you. It takes the pressure off, right? It's like, okay, you can have a cheat day if you're on a diet, and that takes or a couple of cheat days, as long as you don't go crazy, or maybe a little piece of something after dinner every single night, and that takes the pressure off, because it's pressure. That must be what people are responding to with finances, right? That the thought that, like, so I'm in my 40s now. Oh my, I never thought I'd be in my 40s, but I am. Here we are. And like, then you see these articles on CNBC, how much money you should have saved by 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And you're like, what kind of worker am I? Did I not do what I was supposed to do? Right? Like, it's just that pressure that you put on yourself. I mean, life already puts on pressure when you have your kids, and then as you get older, you're working towards retirement. So I say all that to say you're right, and you put enough pressure on yourself just in daily life that I think is a better holistic view based off what you're saying.
Yes, I call it the caged animal effect. So if I'm really buttoning down and I'm restricting my spending and all of that, it works for like 3 weeks, and then I'm like, you let me out of the cage, and then I'm buying everything that I was thinking about for those 3 weeks plus some, and it doesn't work, because then all that work and all that pressure I put on myself is for nothing, because I blew the budget by doing that.
How do women achieve retirement successfully?
It does come down to doing things that your future self would thank you for, right? So making the decisions and putting money in mind. And what my clients have found when working with me is they'll say, I think about money all the time now, but it's not a bad thing. I just make decisions. I'm strategic with my decisions versus never thinking about it. And they're surprised, because they're like, I enjoy thinking about money now, because I'm doing things to empower myself that my future self would appreciate. So it's important for women to plan for retirement for the future, because we do statistically live longer than our male counterparts, right? We do statistically make less money than our male counterparts. So we have to. So having that discipline in place of saving, being strategic about where your money is going, finding a trusted resource that you can talk to that explains these things to you in a language that you understand is super important, because otherwise it's like, well, what is all of this for? Saving is no fun if it doesn't have a purpose. Just socking money away only works for the money hoarders, but even then they're never satisfied because they never have enough. So saving for a purpose is good, and saving with a goal. So putting goals in place, I think women really enjoy that, because it gives them a reason to do it. Like the stop buying your $5 cup of coffee every day kind of thing. That doesn't work, especially with women, because for many women, they can't see how that adds up. It adds up, but they're like, well, but I want it. And and that's okay. You can have it, because that may be the best part of your day. And who am I to take that away from you? But by putting goals in place and taking those little baby steps and chipping away at that goal, it helps women feel like they're accomplishing something, and they can see essentially the forest through the trees.
Does a person have to put themselves in retirement to be successful with saving for it? Like, meaning so right now I travel 2 times a year, 3 times a year, because I'm working. I go out to eat 5 times a month, XYZ. Is it as simple as taking what your current life is like and then replicating that in retirement? Or does there need to be some humility with the fact that, okay, I'm retired and life is not going to be the exact one for one like it was when I was generating more money, or if a married woman, like that, her spouse was generating money and at that level at that time.
I think it's a mistake to assume you're going to spend less money in retirement
Hmm.
because y- one, stuff is just going to cost more in the future, right?
Right.
Every day stuff costs more. So
Mhm.
to think you're going to need less money today than in even at inflation adjusted, it's just not realistic. Um, you travel more, there's more things to do. You are finding different ways to occupy your time, which could cost money. So when I'm planning with my clients and I hear them like kind of allude to, well, I don't need as much, I kind of just let's just use your current income and let's assume that, because
Mhm.
who wants to stop eating out,
Right.
5 times a month? Who wants to stop traveling
Mhm.
when you're in retirement? We worked our whole lives for this vacation, so why would we want to do less? So I
Yeah.
think being realistic in the fact of, no, I am going to spend a lot of money in retirement, and I need to put those plans in place in order to achieve that.
Yeah, because otherwise you just work to pay your light bill and your cell phone bill for like 40, 50 years that you were working. It's
Right.
not a great life. When you like look back on it like in its entirety.
Yeah.
Um, what is the one piece of advice that stands above all others when it comes to becoming an elite financial, a master of one's finances that you would give to women?
Talk about it.
Hmm.
Talk about money, talk about things. So, and it doesn't have to be, I have this much money in my checking account, or I make this much a year, or my husband makes this much a year. That's not what I mean when I say talk about money. Talk about anything with money. How much did you got your bathroom renovated? Yeah. How much was it? Like, because we're thinking about getting ours done. And we're getting quotes and I just can't believe these prices. That's not telling anyone anything personal about you. It's factual. I spent X amount of dollars on my bathroom renovation, and this is what it cost, and this is why. And it's not personal. But it helps everyone just becomes more comfortable instead of having all of these questions out there of about money. Just by having little conversations like that, it just breaks the walls down. It just
Mhm.
brick by brick, the walls just come down and everyone just becomes more comfortable with it. So I think just talking about money, being more open with it. And again, you don't have to tell anyone anything personal, but factual, remove that emotion that we unnecessarily put on our money, remove it, talk about it, and be open.
How early should a person, a woman, start speaking to a financial advisor such as yourself? Should they right out of high school, once they get their first job? What's the golden rule? Your golden rule, anyways.
I think as soon as you start having questions about money is when you should start talking to someone.
Mhm.
The problem though is not every financial advisor is the same. So you really have to find someone that will answer your questions and will talk to you.
Yeah.
You said right out of high school I've talked about money memories. One of my first money memories is when I made toast in a restaurant for breakfast. That was my first job. And I got tips and I got a lot of tips. And I remember, putting the money on my bed and making piles of it. And I would say, all right, well, I'm going to keep this for now. I'm going to spend this. And like I was creating my own spending strategy without even realizing it. That was my first money memory, which considering what I do now makes a lot of
Right.
sense
Yeah.
that that's what I did. Right. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, if your kid's in high school and they're making some money, yeah, they should be talking to someone that can just give them advice of, hey, set aside 20%, put it in a bank account, pretend it doesn't exist. And you'll still have plenty of money to spend when you go out with your friends and all of that. But so as soon as they start thinking about money, having questions about it, I say that's when you start, because that's when you can really give them those foundations that many people were not given.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Essentially, start as early as it's relevant for you is what I kind of take, from your answer.
Yeah,
That makes a lot of sense.
I have two 5-year-olds. We
Mm.
talk about money all the time. They know what I do for a living, and we talk about it. How much does stuff cost, and all. they don't know what the numbers mean, but they know we're talking about it because money is on this little plastic thing. So
Mhm.
it's real painless when you pay with it. Well, if, hey, mommy's buying this for you and this, this is a really nice toy I'm getting you. Like, let's
Mhm.
treat it nice. And so
Right.
just to give them some value to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Like the whole debunking the money grows on trees things with your kids as early as possible
Yes.
is really important. When we were growing up, it was, my parents weren't wealthy by any means. So the heat was kept at a balmy 63 degrees in the house. And you shut off the light when you left the room, and and the television, and there was like no waste of resources at all. And it's just from those behaviors, I learned that you could leave the TV on until you come back. You could leave the light on in a room because you're just leaving for like an hour and you're coming back, right? You could let the water just run while you're brushing your teeth until the very end when you rinse out. But you should be industrious with the what you have to use, and you should make the best and highest possible use for whatever period of time you're using something. And that
Showing
just,
respect for it.
yeah, it just makes you resourceful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it more valuable. I remember my
Yeah.
father told me that every dollar you make, save 25 cents. That was his advice when we were,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that was when I was younger. And then right before I moved out, he said, if you don't pay any bill, he said, no, he said, if you pay one bill above all others, you always pay your rent or your mortgage, because even if you don't have any electricity, you don't have any food, you always have a place to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two things I remember as early money memories.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
It is.
Well, how can my listeners and viewers actually get a hold of you if they want to? My hordes of female viewers that I have, which actually comprise about 34% of my audience, how can they get a hold of you if they're interested in having a consultation with you?
Yeah, so you could just visit my website, gwawealth.com. That's where you can learn more about me, how I work with my clients, and then get connected, have a simple conversation and what you're looking to achieve and how I can help you and how I work with my clients. So it's gwawealth.com.
Shari Rash, thank you so much for your time today. It was a really good conversation, and I can tell you, I've had a lot of hundreds of conversations, and when they're not good, I just say thank you for coming. But this was good. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
She's Shari, Micah, and don't forget, if you don't go about doing your business, you're going to be doing the business of someone else. Until next time, we're out of here.